absolute honor to welcome Dr. Terré Holmes to my podcast show today. Dr. Terré, you wear many hats: real estate investor, a business coach, an advocate for personal growth. And what's truly inspiring is how your work consistently empowers women and professionals to claim financial freedom and achieve personal transformation. Your role as a chief visionary officer at Envision You perfectly embodies this diversely skilled journey of yours. At least that's how I perceive your journey. If you're okay, let's take one or maybe multiple steps back. Your work impacts so many, yet every journey starts somewhere personal. Could you share with us what initially sparked your passion to for empowering others, and if I'm correct, women of color in particular? But please correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, thank you so much for that introduction. And yeah, my journey for empowerment and empowering women started a long time ago. And I believe it derived out of something that I saw when I was growing up. My parents suffered through addiction, and both my mom and my dad. And I watched my mom struggle, and I watched other women in our community struggle with various issues, whether it was addiction or single motherhood or poverty, just all of these elements. And I think that innately, I was born to lead and I was born to inspire. I feel like God put something special on the inside of me. And so I saw those things and I saw an opportunity. I saw an opportunity to empower women like my mother and like the other women that I saw around me to just be better, to do better. And when I moved away, and I'm from Cleveland, Ohio originally, and and when I moved away to New York City around maybe the age of about 22, I went there for graduate school, and I just started to see a different world and I started to be empowered. I started to be empowered by this new world that I was seeing where people were just thriving in life and going after what they wanted, even when things were hard. And that inspiration led me to start to do the work that I began doing. And my work actually began in the space of forgiveness because I needed to forgive my parents for the beginning journeys of my life, and but I also needed to forgive myself for what I had done to myself. So the very first workshop that I ever did publicly was in Chicago, Illinois, when I moved to Chicago, and I did this workshop called "The Power of Forgiveness Between Women." And
Oh,
I was maybe 28 or 29 years old, maybe 30. I think I was maybe 30. And I put on this workshop and I put it on some public event site. And I got people from all over the city to come. And some of those people I'm still friends with today, all these years later. And so that's really where my work began and why it began, because I first needed to heal myself. And to heal myself, I figured, I would go and teach other people what I also needed for me.
okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Often we're being told, yeah, you gotta let it go, you gotta let the past go. But at least the more people told me to let go of things, the more I kept hold on them because I did
Mm,
not want to let go. Don't think of a pink elephant, and what do? You think of this big, huge pink elephant.
absolutely.
But forgiveness, it needs something from yourself. It's really up to you to be able to either forgive first of all yourself, and then also, of course, towards others.
Yes.
It's
And there was a quote that I read years ago. Um, Forgiveness is not for you, it's a gift that you give to someone else,
mm,
right? Um, so we give this gift to other people when we forgive them, but it ends up being a gift for us because
yeah,
it
yeah,
also sets us free. You know, there can be no outside if there's no prisoner inside. And so when you don't forgive, you create this imprisonment inside of you.
yeah,
And I lived with that imprisonment for a very long time, and it affected me in so many ways. It affected my relationships, it affected my
Mm-hmm.
health. And when I was in my early 20s and living in New York City is stressful. It's a stressful place. And so I'm living in New York City, and it's already intense and stressful, but I was also dealing with that anger I had towards my parents, and I couldn't let it go. And my body was aching. My body was aching for a few years, and I would go to one doctor and they would say nothing's wrong with you, and I would go to another doctor and they would say nothing's wrong with you. They could not find anything wrong with me, but my body was aching, it was hurting. But it was the tension, it was the resistance that you talked about, Susan,
Yeah, yeah.
that builds up inside of you. And so I decided in my late 20s to let it go, and that's when I started to work on the power of forgiveness.
Yeah. So if I've listened to you correctly, there were
Mhm.
two main things. First, you well, first, or you moved to New York, and that's where you saw another world, a different world from
Yes,
where you grew up. You saw people around you working, making things possible,
yes,
and the inside journey.
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah,
And I think that your soul takes you to where it needs to be.
yeah,
When you are seeking something, your soul is also seeking it. You know, what you seek, your soul seeks too.
yeah.
And because we can't see the soul, we feel it and we know what we want. And so I'm a believer, and I believe that God just starts to move you where you need to be for the
Hmm.
journey that's ahead of you. And me going to New York City, contrary to what people believe, they're like, oh, New Yorkers are so rude. Oh, New York is so rough. But I met some of the kindest people in New York City. And in New York, it was the first time I walked into the hair salon or the store or different places, and people would hug me. Because where I grew up, we don't hug strangers. And
Oh yeah,
so it was just such a beautiful place to be. And I remember going to church one evening for a service, like a Wednesday night service, and I just burst into tears because I had so much heaviness on me. And I remember this woman who I did not know. She went to the church as well. I did not know her. She walked up to me and she just held me for a long time, and I wept like a baby. And I needed to let those things go. And a few years later is when I moved to Chicago, and that's when I started the work on forgiveness. But the journey started definitely in New York City.
yeah. Okay, okay. Thank you for sharing. When So now I move a bit forward. We went backwards, now a bit forwards, just a big jump. When you think about the legacy you want to leave behind, what is the most important lesson you hope for women to take from your journey?
That you really do control the next chapter of your life,
Yeah,
that each chapter belongs to you. And if you don't like the book that's being written, pick up the pen and write something new.
yeah,
Pick up the pen and learn a new skill. Um, invest in yourself. Um, Release some of the negativity on your life. Get rid of some of the relationships and replace them with better relationships. I was listening to Mel Robbins, who's here in the United States, and she has a great podcast, and she speaks on just wellness and the self, the inner self. And she was talking about how hard it is for people to make friends after a certain age. And a friend sent this to me and she said, well, what do you think? And I said, yeah, I do, I think that's true. And she said, well, I wasn't expecting that from you because it's always been easy for you to make friends. And I'm like, I just decide, I just make a choice that's a little different than other people. And because I'm in business, we connect with so many different types of people.
yeah,
But that's what I would tell women, that change the narrative, and the legacy belongs to you. You decide what the legacy is that you want to leave, because the legacy could begin today. Like today could be your last day on earth. And what is the legacy you've created? And if you
yeah,
don't like the chapter, the story that's being written, rewrite it.
yeah. That's a very powerful message, very profound. Yeah, yeah. If you
Thank you.
don't like your book, or just a chapter or just a part of a chapter, rewrite. But you
Yeah,
got to
because
make the decision.
You do, because our
Yeah.
chapters are changing as we change. We're
Yeah.
going through, as women, we're young women, we're college women, then we're working women, then we're wives, and then we're mothers, and we're daughters, and then we're empty nesters because the children go off, and then and then we're widows, and so you go through so many chapters of your life, and every chapter, some of those chapters can really bring you down. Right now, I'm in the chapter where a lot of my colleagues and friends, and including myself, our parents are aging, and
Yeah.
we're having to stop life to take care of them. And it's not always graceful. The journey is not always graceful. The journey can be very taxing on you emotionally, mentally, physically, but I think that pre-planning helps you to create better outcomes. So making sure, I reiterate this with my clients, my coaching clients and business clients: pre-planning, getting your will in place, making sure you have your insurances in place, making sure you create things like trust to protect your assets.
Mm.
Like, these are things that we have to do in order to protect the legacies that we are building and then leaving.
It's already a way of already preparing your next chapter, right?
Yes.
You're already writing your next chapter by doing all these things, thinking about it, and then take action.
Absolutely, because I ask people when I'm teaching, when I'm coaching, especially in the real estate space, in the business space, and I ask them, do you remember the name of your great 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 grandmother? And they oftentimes say, no, I don't.
Hmm.
And I say, do you know why? And they're curious. And I say to them, it's because she didn't leave you anything.
Oh,
If she left you something,
then,
you would remember her name. And we don't realize how important that is, creating generational wealth, leaving something. I don't care if it's just a piece of land that's paid
mm,
off. I was talking to a friend the other day from high school who's actually in the Netherlands as well.
oh,
She moved there from the
it's a
US.
small world, right?
Yeah, yeah. She moved there from the US. She and her family, they moved from
Yeah,
LA to the Netherlands, uh, maybe about 5 or 6 years ago, and we grew up together. We've been friends since we were 10 years old, but I never knew her great great grandfather left her family like 150 plus acres of land. And she said that there was a holiday or some holidays where they got proceeds from the land because someone was doing something on the land. And so a little bit of the money came to them and everybody got a check for it. She knows his name because this man left them something,
yeah,
and he protected it. He put it in a trust so no one could steal it, so no one could take what his family, what he wanted to create and have for his family. So we rarely talk about money, but money is such an important conversation to have. And I think that talking about money and protecting our money is a radical act of self-care.
yeah. Yeah, it's a good thing that you bring it up because when we were getting to know each other before this podcast interview, you were writing a sentence and you were asking me if it made sense. And this sentence was, at least to me, you described yourself as a humanitarian and a capitalist at the same time. Do you believe this should be every woman's or a man's balance?
Yes, I absolutely believe that this should be every man, every woman. I believe that abundance is our God given right. An abundance and overflow is a God given right.
Yeah,
Let me tell you this: a squirrel never has to wonder where his food's coming from, it has an abundance of food. A lion doesn't have to worry about where its food's coming from. A bird doesn't have to worry about where its food's coming from because there is an abundance of it.
mm,
So they get up in the morning with not a care in the world. And us as humans, we have to operate in the same vein, that abundance is our right, that we shouldn't have to worry about anything. And unfortunately, we do, because we're told that you go to school, you get a good job, and then you retire. But that's not true. That is not the way to build a life of, and it's true for some people depending on what fields they're in, but most people struggle, and they
Mm.
struggle for the duration of their lives. And then they teach their children struggle. And then they retire on that struggle, and the money that they retire on is a fraction of the money they had that was not enough
Yeah,
when they were working in the
yeah.
first place.
But once you figure it out, it's too late, right?
Once you figure it out, it's too late. And so,
Yeah,
yes, being a capitalist and a humanitarian, because if I'm a capitalist and I'm about making money, I can make money to bring people up.
yeah,
I can
exactly.
make money to enrich the lives of first my family, then my community, and then the world at large.
Yeah,
And if we have more people who were thinking about having money for the sake of creating change and creating opportunities and possibilities for other people, we wouldn't have homelessness, we wouldn't have poverty, we wouldn't have people who can't afford to take care of their health. We wouldn't have that. And so, yes, I'm a humanitarian and a capitalist.
yeah. I love
Proudly,
it.
proud,
Yeah,
unapologetic.
yeah, 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 yeah. You don't have to. I can feel
And
it.
every
We're miles and miles away, but
yes,
I feel it right here.
yes, and every man and every woman should
Yeah,
look at themselves as such, because, and I'm not saying you got to make $1 million to be a capitalist. I'm saying that you believe that making money and earning money and creating business, whether it's from a hobby you have, I teach real estate investing, mostly, like you said,
yeah,
to Black and
yeah,
brown women, right? And their allies. But whether it's through a business or whether it's through assets you accumulate, but having wealth and creating wealth, it is very important. And we're seeing this around the world because prices have gone up for everything around the entire world, not just in the United States.
I work with women. In my work in my company. I empower women to take position because I believe the world can be could be should be a more equal place for women. And often it's first everybody else, and then pops up the question, okay, and then what about me? And it's salary wise, it's responsibility wise, it's job title wise, it's a lot of things.
Yes,
How would you comment on that?
I love flying. And when I go on a plane, the pilot tells me to
Mm,
put my jacket on first,
yeah,
right? Put my seatbelt on to protect myself, and in case of an emergency, put on my life jacket first. There's always going to be an emergency because life is full of
yeah,
emergencies,
unexpected emergency.
unexpected
Yeah,
things. So we have to take care of ourselves first. And I learned that way too late in life, but I'm glad that I learned it. We have to take care of ourselves when it comes to our health first, because you're only as good as you are healthy. Health, and we have to do it when it comes to our money, of course, and our mental and physical well-being. So that means that, so for me personally, my morning rituals involve, and I don't have children, so in all fairness, but my morning rituals involve getting up, meditation, prayer, journaling.
oh yeah,
That's what I do every morning before I hit the floor.
yeah,
And that's self-care. And so women have to think about themselves first, because we are, no matter where you are in the world, men rule the world, and white men in particular. And they make the decisions and the choices and how much you should be paid. And women are sorely
for us,
underpaid
right?
for
For us.
us as women.
Yeah, yeah,
For us as women, whatever color we are.
yeah. Doesn't
And
matter.
yeah, it
Yeah,
doesn't matter. And so we can't, you can't just be selfless and not
yeah,
be selfish,
yeah,
right? Being selfish doesn't mean anything other than I think of myself first.
Yeah.
And we have to learn to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, we have to learn. And I saw a video where somebody was leaving a review, and she was actually saying you can't pour with an empty cup.
You cannot.
You can't.
You
No.
can't pour from an empty cup. And in my workshops, that's one of the things that I do. I when I'm talking about self-care and wellness for women, I take them through this exercise of holding a cup and turning it upside down and letting them know you cannot pour from an empty cup.
Yeah.
Nothing in, nothing out. And so what's important for women is to find and build relationships that build them, so that because we give so much, but who's giving to us?
Yeah.
And so to equally surround ourselves with people who are also pouring into us. So as I empty my cup a little bit to give, that somebody fills my cup,
Yeah.
right?
Or you do
So,
it yourself. But
or you
yeah.
do it yourself.
Yeah.
And but the thing, I definitely believe that we should do it ourselves, but I do believe that it is holistically responsible for us to have holistic experiences of other people pouring into us as well, and finding those, and whether it's just your girlfriends pouring into you with laughter, that is that right there, you can't measure that. That's a pouring into as well. And so, or whether it's you going to a networking event and someone's pouring into you to teach you something you did not know, so you're taking the initiative, but allowing other people to also pour into you and surrounding yourself with people who want to.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, put you and your money first. I think I've read that also somewhere.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think it's great, and if you're okay with it, I'm gonna refer to you, and I'm gonna use it in my trainings as well. Put you and your
Absolutely.
money first. Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Then
Yes.
it's fine. Yeah, but I had the same. I'm now being an entrepreneur for 5 6 years,
Hmm.
and for me, it was also at a certain point when I had a certain amount of turnover and profit, I was saying, okay, I have everything. I have a family. I have a nice house. I don't need to move. I should be very grateful. Why do I need more? So that was
Mm.
holding me back. That was holding me back. And yeah,
And that is such a double-edged sword, that question, because when we ask ourselves that question, it's I believe that it's a spirit of unbelief
yeah,
that it's possible to have more sometimes. Then I also believe that as women, we're just taught to be satisfied, to be good
yeah.
girls, to
Be
accept what
small. It's okay.
it's
Yeah,
okay, take
yeah,
what life gives you.
yeah.
We're not taught to go after it, to conquer it, to want more. And we're not, right?
No, I know.
We're not. And so asking ourselves that question definitely puts limitations on what's
Yeah,
possible.
yeah,
And also we have to ask, because we're asking ourselves, I think oftentimes, do I deserve it?
yeah.
Do I
Am I
deserve?
worth it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Why do I deserve to have more? But I think that this pandemic and the rising cost of everything has shown us that you need more. You need more, because the moment you think that what you have is enough, prices go up, life
yeah,
happens, right?
yeah. And then
And,
you're imbalanced
and
again.
then you're
Yeah,
imbalanced, and it's
yeah,
like, what's wrong with being comfortable? And I
yeah,
think that so many women, or too many, let me say that, too many women
yeah.
have been uncomfortable with just enough, or just getting by, or not pushing the envelope. And we have to get uncomfortable with going after everything we deserve and want.
Yeah, and desire and comes up and
Yes.
wishes. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. Because I want a boat and I want to name her BB. BB is boss babe. So that would be my boat. She's boss babe. That's the boat, BB.
Is it something is going to happen in 2025, or you don't know yet? Or is it
Oh, I am really planning for some big things in 2025. And if BB is one of them, my arms are wide open for that baby.
yeah. Sounds like a plan. Okay, okay. Let's move to decision making because whatever it is that you want to achieve, or you want to have, or you want to be,
Mhm.
um, you don't get there without making decisions. Without making decisions, we stay exactly where we are. We are doing the same chapter again
Yep,
and again. And we're stuck in the same chapter.
we
Let's use
are.
your words again.
Hmm.
So we spoke about the importance of differentiating between fear and intuition in decision making. Could you share or get an example of this?
The tell me, ask me that one more time.
Yeah, yeah. So we spoke with. I was asking you about. I was curious about how you make decisions, big ones but smaller ones. Doesn't matter. Just in general,
Gotcha.
because when
Yeah,
you don't make decisions, you stay where you are.
absolutely.
Um,
Um, you know, I am a woman of faith, and I used to hear from God so loudly, so loudly. It should be so loud to me, and I would hear it, and I believe that I was when I was in my younger years, I acted on it quicker, and was like, okay, I heard it, I'm going to do it. And then life started to happen, and I started to hear it, and I started to question and doubt, and so I wasn't acting as
mm,
quickly. And I was in church service yesterday, and they were talking about how when you're a leader, you cannot afford not to be connected to some higher source that's guiding you and speaking to you, because you're leading people, you're leading a company, you're leading. And so for me, I have learned to listen to that inner voice, and for me, that's God
yeah,
speaking to me, that intuition, that I pray on it. And I told you I meditate in the morning. I
yeah, yeah,
pray on it, I meditate, and then I hear a word. And so I have learned to pray on things um, that I need to do in my business and in my personal life, and to meditate on it so that those answers start to come to me, and to listen. And sometimes I realize that in the past few weeks that God has been speaking to me like at 4 o'clock in the morning, 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. And I'm like, really? Are you
very
serious? Like,
convenient.
I am not a morning person, and you know this. But when it started to happen quite recently, I started to realize that's when God had always spoken to me. But I stopped listening.
Yeah,
I didn't want to get up. I didn't want to get out of my bed, turn on the light, and write the notes down and put it in writing. And so I feel like I can't speak for other people, but if you have a faith and if you believe in a higher being and a higher power, allow that to lead you. Because oftentimes what we do is we only go to our higher source when we're in trouble.
yeah.
And I have learned to go there before I'm in trouble so that I don't get in trouble.
Yeah,
And
you used this higher voice to, if again back to the book, to write your next chapters.
to write my next chapters,
Yeah,
yes. And
yeah,
And I also make decisions based on my feelings. Now, someone may say, but what if the feeling is fear? Well, there's good fear and there's bad fear, right?
yeah,
So if I'm going, we had a crazy snowstorm here in the United States, and particularly in Atlanta, Georgia last week. And it never snows in Atlanta. It's a sunny, beautiful, hot state for the most part, and that snowstorm was wild, and people were skiing. They were skiing. They brought out their skis. It was just crazy. And you know if I'm making a decision, and I brought that up, I had a point. I lost it, but I had this connection. um but so many times, for me, making those decisions is based on what I hear from God, but also making those decisions is based on what I feel. And if
yeah,
something feels right, and I was talking about that fear, that's what I was talking about,
yeah.
fear,
Good fear and less good,
fear and bad
bad
fear, right?
fear. So
And
what do
so
you?
if
Yeah,
I've
yeah,
never if I've never seen snow, and I've never sled down a hill, that's that good fear. It's like, oh my God, I'm afraid, but I'm about to do
yeah,
this. This is so good, right? But then there's a fear of things that are false evidence appearing real. Like, I'm
Mm.
afraid to do this in my business because what if it doesn't
Yeah.
work? Well, what
Yeah.
if it does? And so I check those feelings, but I also make decisions based on how I'm feeling about something. If
Yeah.
it's that strong guttural intuition that I'm like, oh my God, this just feels like I gotta do it, I do it. And
Yeah.
I try not to, and I ask myself this question too. Um, is it going to elevate me? Because my word for 2025 is elevate. Is it going to elevate me? Is it going to take me to another level? Is it going to get me out of my comfort zone? Is it going to push me towards something that's good for me? If it's going to do those things, I'm doing it. And so I do ask myself a set of questions as well when I'm making decisions.
Yeah. 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 Both on the with your you use your brain, of course, but your gut feeling, or your the inspiration you get, your belief, is what is mainly leading. And then I guess with the brain and all the things you've done in the past and still doing now, you turn them into actions, and you go and one step at a time.
Absolutely. And then the other way that I make decisions is because you also have to make informed decisions. So,
Mm-hmm.
as a business owner, as a leader, those informed decisions come when you surround yourself with people who know more than you,
Mm-hmm.
when you start to learn new skills and add new skills to your toolbox. So we have to constantly be in a state of learning and discovering and building relationships with those who know more than us, and asking questions to those who know more than us. So I also make decisions, informed decisions, based on some of my relationships, and based on some of the new things I'm learning in technology with AI, you know,
Yeah.
looking at how I can structure my business differently and things of that nature. So we have to also be willing to learn new things and grow in that way as well.
Yeah. Um, for those who are listening, for and struggle with indecision or self doubt, what practices or mindset shift would you recommend to help trust their instincts and take action from there?
Just do it.
Yes, just do it. Yeah,
Nike, baby.
yeah.
Just
It's
everybody,
this simple.
it's just do it.
Yeah,
You learn. No one gets to success without a whole bunch of failures.
yeah,
You just don't get there without going. You're looking at one way that I won, but you're not looking at the 100 times it took me to get there.
mm,
You know, you're not looking at the 100 mistakes I made to get to this level of success that you now see. And I'm saying that's for anyone. And so we don't get to success without putting in the work
yeah,
and making some bad decisions and making some tough choices and having some tough conversations. You just don't get there without effort.
yeah,
So if you're in a state of indecision, I find that for me, meditation works. It just works.
to
I
get
get
your answers.
Yes, to get still, to
Or
get
answers, maybe that's too masculine, but to get insights, or yeah, yeah,
to get that insight, to get that hear that word, hear, because your inner being already knows what you need. And sometimes what's going on outside of us is distractions, it's naysayers, it's disbelievers. And so within your inner being, and getting quiet and getting still, you can start to hear the direction. It's
yeah,
just like a blind person. If I'm blind and someone's trying to lead me somewhere, if everybody's talking, I can't get anywhere. I
no,
can't get to the destination because I can't hear that one voice that's leading me. And that's what it is. It's that listen, waiting for that one voice. But in order to hear that one voice, that's what I was talking about when God used to speak to me so loudly. Well, now his voice is softer. And because his voice is softer and is more still, I have to silence all of the distraction around me. And
yeah,
so I think that with women leaders, oftentimes they're listening to too many people. They're telling people their plans. They're telling people and they're asking, well, what do you think? And what do you think? We ask for too much advice. You don't need to know what everyone thinks because everyone hasn't taken this journey that you're about to take. And so you seek out good counsel from people who have perhaps taken the journey that you're about to take, or people who just have wise counsel, but everyone's counsel is not warranted in every aspect of your life.
Yeah. And it's been given by different glasses,
Yes,
perspective.
for
Yeah,
different
yeah, yeah.
perspectives. And so
Yeah.
I have friends who I don't talk to about
Yeah.
relationship
Oh, yeah.
advice,
Yeah.
because they can't give me relationship advice. But then
Yeah.
I have friends that I have like one friend, or one really, who's my go-to person, because her outlook on relationships and dating is just so positive and inspiring and uplifting. That's what I need, because
Exactly.
if I'm
Yeah. But same with business ideas
it's the
or
exact
whatever
same
it is that
thing.
you're, yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
You find the people that uplift you, empower you instead of pull you down. And yeah.
Yes. And people who know something about that thing. And so maybe
Yeah.
that person's not in your circle yet. Maybe you need to get that person in your circle. And so
Yeah.
that's also important, is to look at ways to expand the circle, so that when you, as a business owner and as a entrepreneur or CEO or an executive, that you have those people in your circle who you can also go to when you're in that, have that spirit of indecision.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's a different answers to a question, but your main answer was when you're don't know what decision to make, it's just do it. Just
Just do
pick
it.
one and go and see what
Yes.
happens. Yeah,
Yeah. Like,
yeah, very clear,
and so
very
let me,
clear.
but let me say this though. If you're not getting an answer and you feel like, oh, I need to make a decision, if there is no answer, just be still,
Yeah,
because perhaps right now is not the time.
yeah,
So sometimes you're not getting an answer, and your indecision is because you haven't gotten an answer
yeah,
to what it is you need to do next. And so for those of us who are just anxious Bettys, and we're like, oh my God, or I'll call them anxious Annies. For the anxious Annies, when we're like, oh, I need to do something, I need to do something. No, sometimes you need to do nothing.
yeah. In stillness we receive, right? Yeah,
In stillness you receive. So I
yeah,
just wanted to be clear about that. If you have an answer, just do it. But if you don't have an answer,
yeah, yeah,
and you're feeling like, oh my God, what should I do? You don't have the answer yet. So you should
yeah.
just be still.
Before I heard you talking about success. What
Mhm.
is how do you personally define success in one or two sentences? What does success mean for you to you?
Success to me is the process of evolving without ceasing and becoming a better version of you until you're no longer here, until you no longer exist.
Yeah,
That's success to me. That if I can become a better version each and every day
yeah.
in my business, in my personal life, in my relationships, whatever it is, that is success to me.
So if I give my words with if it's the journey that leads you to a better version of yourself. If you
It
can
is.
keep on going doing that, that for you defines success. Am I right here? Or
What I'm saying is, on this journey, find ways
yeah,
to evolve
yeah,
and to keep growing and learning, and that will lead you to greater success. So find ways within your business, find ways within you personally, to become a better version of yourself every day. If you become just 1% better every single day,
yeah,
to me that is success.
yeah, yeah. Very inspiring. We often see success as something else, right? If this, then I'm happy, or if whatever. Yeah,
Yes, but and I believe that there are various levels to success, right? Because
mm,
I can't, uh, my my business may have a very different aspect of success. Success this year may be, hey, we our revenue increased by X amount, of dollars, or we grew our email list by, you know, a certain number of people.
Yeah.
And like, so there are real tangible things with success. But if you're talking about personal success, because if you're looking at yourself and you're saying, wow, I really did grow, that does, whether it's if I'm growing as a business owner and I'm just making better decisions and we're having less failures, like that's success. And so I think that when we look at success, it can't all be financial. It can't all be monetary. It can't all be, if specifically for women, because I've been married and divorced. It can't all be, oh, I'm a success if I have a man. I'm a success if I get married. I'm a success. No, you're a success because you survived.
Mm.
You're a success because after you survived, you healed. And after you healed, you learned to love again. And after you learn to love again, you took baby steps to get back into something.
Yeah.
That's what makes you a success.
Yeah.
Whether you have the ring on your finger or the spouse on your arm, it's the steps towards your growth that quantifies and to me qualifies whether or not you are a success.
Yeah. And if you're watching this video right now, and if you're looking at Dr. Terré, it's really aligned. The way you bring up the words, it's really aligned with who. Well, you leave the impression with how you are. So yeah,
Thank
it's
you.
really beautiful.
Appreciate
That's
that.
just
I
a
appreciate it.
compliment. Yeah, thank
Yes.
you. Yeah, it's really beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really comes from the heart. Yeah,
It took a long time to get here. It took a lifetime. As I said earlier in this interview, I didn't have an easy way in coming into this life.
yeah,
My father was a heroin addict before I was ever born, and my mother was addicted to crack cocaine by the time I was 11 years old. So that journey of trauma, Kanye West has a song I think that says everything I'm not made me everything I am. Literally everything I'm not. I'm not the kid who grew up in the perfect household with
mm,
the perfect parents or anywhere near perfect. I'm not the kid who had parents who, sat down with me and helped me make decisions, helped
yeah,
me see life in a different way, who uh, poured into me in a way that pushed me to be the greatest version of myself. I'm not that. But because I'm not that, I am this. I
yeah,
had to figure it out. I had to pray and ask God to send me people who would push me and challenge me. I had to pray and ask for healing and growth and love for myself before I could give it to other people. I had to do the work. And so, if anyone is listening, that's all I would say. Do the work. Don't be afraid
yeah,
to do the work, because when you don't do the work and you are in a position of leadership within a company or within your own business, that lack of work shows up in your leadership.
yeah.
It shows up in the grace that you give to people. It shows up in the way in which you speak to people, what you expect from people. I always say, if you don't work on it, whatever that it is for you, it will work on you.
On you, yeah, and then you lose leadership. You lose.
You lose
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
You lose it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you actually answered the last question I had for you, because if somebody's listening today could take one small step towards transforming their life, what would you suggest they start with? And what I hear you saying is do the work. Whatever the work is, do the work.
Whatever the work is for you.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
work is so different for all of us,
yeah,
but you'll get to your happily ever after faster. You'll get to being a better leader, which will bring greater revenue, greater asset. Like, you'll get to it if you do the work.
yeah,
And doing the work looks different for everyone. For me, it was therapy, and it was uh, a closer relationship to God, and It was reading tons of books on personal development. It
Meeting
was
people, probably. Yeah,
meeting people.
yeah,
It was hiring coaches. I've had several coaches in my life, business coaches and personal coaches. That's the work. And if you're
yeah,
not willing to do the work, then you're going to miss out on the possibilities of what life really can give you.
yeah. I believe that's a beautiful way to end this podcast interview. Dr. Terré, I have three words for you. I love you. I love the way you are as a human being. Thank you very much.
Oh
Thank you
my
very much for
God.
being in my podcast show, for who you are. And please, please, please continue making our world a better place.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for that. Oh my God. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.